Have a confirmed date of December 5 and time of either 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, or would you prefer a later time? Good afternoon, Kathy. Ooh, I am not good at scheduling these kind of things. This is why I don't have parties. Before I send out the email confirming the time, I wanted to check in with you. The date is Friday, December 5. What is the best time for you? Venetia, who's chairing the committee, has said anytime after 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That would be like, would make the earliest meeting time like 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. Let me know what works best for you. Hello?
So sweet. Teen hasn't sunk in yet. You're right. I was in a staff meeting and I did not check my phone until right now.
Oh, okay. Do you need to go back to your staff meeting?
No, we finished it. It just wasn't on my radar. The two overlap. We have one staff meeting a month that runs a little bit longer, and I have permission to leave it early for this. I just didn't
Okay,
make the connection with this as my first IE staff meeting overlap.
got it. Okay, all right. Well,
So
do
I'm
you,
sorry. Can we fit it into 20 minutes or would you
yes, we
prefer I
can.
do an alternate plan?
No, we can fit it in. We can.
Okay.
What did you have that you wanted to cover today?
Okay, so I think probably I have one thing that I'm just signing out, walking out of jail right now.
Okay.
So I actually did my reflection on um, something that kind of made me glad because, and I'll give it to you. I'm not sure. Is it okay if I talk in this about something that I wrote my reflection on, even though you'll be reading it at some point soon?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll talk about that. And also, I'll just give you a heads up that when I was sick last week, it was with pneumonia, and I'm all treated now and healthy and back functioning, but my lungs are like
Oh,
still
wow.
huffing and
Okay.
puffing. So, do you hear me huffing and puffing? It's for no other reason except that my body is healing. So,
Okay. All right.
anyway,
Yes.
all that being said, so I have this team that I lead of volunteers for the men's side, and there's a couple men in particular who come from kind of a fundamentalist Christian background. They've been a little more challenging to deal with in the past. And I had um, the first one, I kind of came around him with some guidelines, and I worked with my boss to really parameterize him, and it went well. He received it. And so I was able to kind of to bring that in a different way than I was able to do before. And part of it has just been in conversation with this class and really with having you for a leader, an IS leader, just thinking about kind of boundaries and assertiveness and leadership and things that I'm scared of.
Okay.
So um, I thought I would just kind of run the second one past you. The first one, we had a series of conversation and emails, and I feel like it's worked out. The second one is he had a so basically the kind of key points were he's in our medium level dorm. He is a former professional athlete, so he kind of has a name and a following.
Mm-hmm.
He happens to be just a very brusque person. He is good Christian chaplain, but along the lines of fundamentalist. But the guys respond to him really well because it's
Okay.
just that good kind of energy. And what happened is there were two concerns I had. The first one was kind of just hovering. Both guys had the same issue, and I was working on how to deal with it. And so the first concern was that he just wasn't reporting back to me. One of the things that we have to do here is report what our people do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to kind of bring him under the umbrella of the facility and me, and he's sort of a guy that likes to do things his own way. And on the one hand, he's had female staff chaplains over him before, and the interactions haven't gone well. I've talked with the women, and he's been really kind of belligerent in a way.
Okay.
But we just have some new auditing standards imposed upon us, so there's no way around it. He has to kind of fall under it, or we have to pull his privileges. So I have to kind of have this confrontation scene with him, which was brewing in my head. I did it with the first guy. It went well. It kind of gave me a little bit of a framework for this guy, who's the more complex one. And the second piece was my boss sent me a note she's connected to his Facebook, and he had posted some really hateful rhetoric about women, like really bad. I read it to my husband. He was like, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible." And so, from my perspective, there's not just that tension. There's also now a safety concern because he's talking to these guys in a unit where I am the chaplain, and I'm in there every day. He goes in once a week, but I'm in there every day, and I just needed to get a handle on kind of what's being communicated about all of that. Is there a safety risk to me? What does this divisiveness look like? So I called him up yesterday, and we had a conversation, and I thought a lot in advance about how to do this, just because I've shared with you before that when I had a differing opinion than my last pastor. Basically, there was a super punitive response, and I'm not saying the fault was 100% mine. I definitely think it could have been better. I just didn't know at the time. Like, this was my first church, first time as a Christian, first community, first all of it. Not really good mentoring. So, lesson learned. I was really trying to put the pieces together. So I sat down and I put together a document. I kind of thought about different ways to approach it, and really sort of the most important way to approach it was identifying as a team with him rather than divisiveness, because my strength is kind of a teamwork strength. I work well with just about everyone. So then I was like, okay, how can I do this? So I thought about it a lot. I called him up. We actually had a good conversation, a really good conversation. He ended up dumping a lot, chaplain style, like just me listening as a chaplain to him, kind of pouring out his life story and frustration with a few couple of promptings and all of that. And I got the sense that he connected to being able to be heard by me.
Okay.
And there were certain elements of his story that I kind of drew out and connected with to sort of create that sense of a team dynamic, even though we were different. And the way that I invited kind of his thoughts and his feedback, I used language that, again, CPE would probably say it was informed by my social identity. Like, and so I think for me, I wrote my reflection on it, and I think overall it went well. I did well with the conversation. I was kind of proud of being able to work through it because it was complex, and I kept having to like check myself as I was dialoguing with him and just really be attentive to where he was taking the conversation and how I was going to extract from there. But the part I didn't put in the reflection, and I just wondered if you in particular would speak to, is it like manipulative of me to navigate these things well? And I didn't really know how to think about all of that. And I thought I would really like just kind of your perspective on that. I don't know if it's like a moral bugging. I don't feel like I did anything morally gray, but I did a dance that he kind of responded to, and I did well at it, but I'm not, again, yeah, I'm not sure about all of that.
Say more about the part that felt manipulative.
I think for me, it was because in this scenario, basically, I had two choices. I had to like pull his clearance and kind of back him all the way out of it, or figure out a way to move forward with him. And obviously, I want to try the with him because we work with humans, and the whole key element of this is salvaging human dynamics. So just the part where I listened to things he said and then tried to connect with them, and then used language maybe that would kind of soothe his ego, or kind of in a way invite him, but because I could identify his values of wanting to feel respected and wanting to feel like he had an opinion. And I think that's what I would say is I just was on the fence because I think a lot of times as a chaplain, we're like chameleons. We're a lot of things to a lot of people. So in one sense, that doesn't feel wrong. But because I was moving him somewhere, that's a harder part of CPE for me, rather than let someone be where they are and be with them in it, to kind of shift perspective or position made me wonder if that was entirely motive free on my part. I don't think it was.
And it sounds like you think the motive was pushing him where he needed to be in order to continue to function as a volunteer.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. And I think that's my conundrum is in my head. I don't think that's necessarily wrong to do from a leadership role, but something about it makes me feel anxious.
Okay. So let's see if we can explore what about coming alongside him in the way that you did and the attunement that you had. What about it pushes your buttons and is over the line for you?
I don't think anything was over the line. It was just the sense that, again, I had to figure out how he ticked to get him to tick in line with how I needed him to tick.
Correct. And that part right there is what feels uncomfortable to you, that you used your skills to figure out how he ticks in order to have him function the way you need him to function.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah,
feels
because
manipulative.
it's different than just like accepting him for who he is, which is a really important value of myself too.
So is it helpful to reframe a little here?
Please.
I wonder if in part what you were doing instead of moving him somewhere was that you invited him into a different space in this dialogue and you aligned with his values so that you could engage. You really were more collaborative, invitational, and alignment than manipulative. And you were functioning, it strikes me, as in a pastoral role as a leader, not as a chaplain.
So how is like what is that? What is that blurry area? As a leader, not as a chaplain.
You were functioning in a pastoral role, which is something that chaplains often do. And you were functioning in that role, though, as a leader who had, my words, not yours, an agenda to address and an outcome to achieve. And as a chaplain, the agenda is driven by the spiritual care receiver, and the outcome is dictated by the spiritual care receiver and the intervention and assessment and our hope of, what that would produce. But here, he's not driving the agenda. You have an agenda and an outcome as a leader, and you approached it in a very pastoral way. And it was invitation, alignment, attuned to where he was, translating in a way that he could receive it to achieve the outcome.
So was I both chaplain and leader in that scenario, or was it more leader? Like, how am I?
So if you
trying to think of those hats.
If you think of the hat chaplain and the hat leader, you can be a dictative leader You can be a dictative chaplain. You can be a collaborative chaplain. You can be a collaborative leader. You can be a pastoral chaplain. You can be a pastoral leader. So you didn't need in that instance your chaplain hat, you needed your leader hat. And out of your own integrity, you chose to exercise that leadership from a very pastoral place.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, because all I could think of was that it didn't really fit into chaplaincy, so it felt kind of off for that reason. But I didn't think of it as a whole separate role.
Mm-hmm. But it's an important role. Yeah, a very important role for your work. And I get that chameleon piece, because we do adapt our tone, our vocabulary, our body posture, uh, all of that, depending on the care receiver. I don't understand myself to be fake when I'm doing that, adjusting to come alongside. I understand myself to be more incarnational. I'm trying to embody compassion in a way the other person can actually receive.
That is a great way to say it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was just hard on myself about it. I'm not sure why. We'll have to get into that more as class goes on, but yeah, that's actually a really helpful way to think about it.
Authenticity and transparency are not an equal sign for me. Are they for you?
Authenticity, transparency. No, I'd say no. Authenticity for me is pretty much 100% of the time, maybe 99%. Transparency is more selective.
And in your professional context, as in others, it's imperative that you be very intentional and very careful in terms of your transparency all the time.
Mm.
So
That's true.
so that it struck me as strategic in terms of your conversation with him, how you proceeded.
Mm.
And and so the transparency of sexism is really difficult for me to navigate. And I don't care for your sexism or your hateful rhetoric on Facebook or on and on and on. Those things would not have been strategic.
Yeah, I was really trying to think about how to incorporate that also because like we don't want to be like, we see your Facebook. Like that's beyond the scope of this. So I had
Right.
to
But
come in a different way. And I
right.
did hear from another admin, he had mentioned he was having marriage trouble, which actually helped me kind of compartmentalize and say, oh, okay, so he could potentially have anger at women coming from that, which means maybe it's less like an explosive in the room and more just a wound inside of him, which is what gave me a little bit of grace walking into it.
Are there policies that you are, as a leader, needing to engage?
Yeah, so there is, we definitely have a standard that you can't use divisive rhetoric with the men and women, anything that divides. So it can't be race, it can't be politics, it can't be gender opinions, whatever. The goal is always common ground and fake support. And within umbrella of Christianity, we have a lot of different flavors of it. So we're always trying to balance the population and the chaplain. So it isn't an entirely new experience to have it, but just anything that is outwardly claimed as gospel that comes across as divisive is something that we do have to dialogue about. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to dialogue with him in person about this and not let it slide. In the past, he's gotten away with a little bit more just because he's a strong personality and he's hard to deal with. But I've been trying to balance my keenness with confrontation and the fact that this is a policy that he just needs to be clear on. And actually, more than even that, I just need to understand that he's clear on it, that whatever is coming out of him is not in some way impacting this ministry in this space with these humans.
Mm-hmm.
Jail's just a divisive place right now, anyway. Between the whole like super right religious and left liberal Santa Clara culture, it's like we always have volatility back and forth for it. So it's more the art of de-escalation and dialogue than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Good place to practice, but stressful.
Uh-huh.
And I would have handled him differently than, say, an inmate who did the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would have. I might have just invited, for example, another chaplain, because I do have inmates. Usually they do come with some kind of mental issue that they're struggling with, along with the anger and everything of being incarcerated. So I might have been more likely to invite a male chaplain to dialogue with someone who was being particularly resistant to me as a female, just because the goal is to support the inmate. If that's what they need, that's what they need, and that's where they are in their walk. Mm. But for this guy, I happen to be the staff chaplain and the person who manages clearance. So there really is no other stopping point but me, unless I were to escalate it to the.
Mm-hmm. And you don't feel like that is appropriate at this time?
No, I don't think so. I told her, actually, I wrote that in my reflection because it was really helpful. As I was like, I'm really afraid I'm going to mess this up, and then I'm going to dump this giant mess in your lap to fix. Like, that's what's making me anxious about addressing this, because she's just busy. She's a great director. And she's like, well, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Why don't you give it a go based on how you're working through this? And so then I was like, okay, I have the responsibility. She said, give it a try. She's got my back if I screw up. And that's kind of what prompted me to really get that last ounce of courage to think, even though I know she has had particular conflict with him in the past, and she does not like engaging with him at all.
Mm-hmm. But you did.
All in all, it was definitely a learning experience, but I did feel not fully equipped, but partially equipped just by even this second unit so far.
That's pretty
like
awesome.
It's a thing I can step through. Even if it's not perfect, I have some step through tools.
That is pretty awesome. Bravo to you. That's awesome. Yeah.
I really appreciate hearing your perspective. Actually, that's one of the things I look forward to learning more from you about. I know you manage a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of different personalities and dynamics, and just trying to get better at that with my own kind of growing self.
Right. To confront with your skills of reflection, intentionality, and just discernment, stillness, and whatever other skills you use, and confront a fear that you have already tethered to some lived experiences that have been very informative in your narrative history. That is no small accomplishment. And so again, I just affirm you're doing that. I don't have a deep word for it, but the word I would use is wow. Like, wow.
Yeah, thank you. I even when I hung up the phone, I kind of just sat back and was like, huh, I did a thing that was really hard that I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
It happened. So that was actually why I was like, I better write my reflection about this and
Right now, right.
process this in a few different ways because
Yeah.
it's one stone in the path being laid forward, which
Pretty
it's cool.
awesome.
Happen.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I am so glad we were able to connect, and I'm glad that we could have this conversation, as opposed to it being delayed. I look forward to reading your reflection as well, and I'll give you some feedback once I read the whole reflection. But yeah, this is really, like I said, wow. That's a
Thank
bumper
you. Thanks for
sticker.
your
Sticker.
adjusting your schedule, and I'm going to make sure I put double reminders on you on Wednesdays going forward. So
Okay.
my phone buzzes at me.
I'll take double reminders.
All right.
All right, I'll see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, you rock. Okay, they're closed from 1 to 2.
Alert has been suspended. Calls from this number cannot be completed at this time. If this is an emergency, call 911. Hi, thanks for calling Walgreens at the corner of San Pablo and Richmond Parkway in San Pablo. Para continuar en español, oprima 9. Your call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. Flu shots, COVID vaccines, and other immunizations are now available at Walgreens. You can walk in or schedule your appointment by phone on the Walgreens app or online at walgreens.com/schedule vaccines. How can I help you today?
Pharmacy hours.
Sure. On weekdays, the pharmacy is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's closed for a meal break at 1:30 p.m. until 2 p.m. On the weekends, the